In the quiet corridors of Prairie power, something is stirring. Behind the public smiles and provincial flags, a plan is quietly taking shape, a plan that could redraw the map of Canada and shake the very foundation of the Confederation. Whispers are growing louder. Leaked documents, private meetings, and political maneuvering all point to one explosive question. Is Saskatchewan preparing to join Alberta in forming a new Western nation? It sounds unthinkable. But in 2025, nothing seems impossible anymore. Alberta's premier has made it clear, if Ottawa won't listen, Alberta will act. And now, sources suggest Saskatchewan might be ready to follow. What began as a debate over pension funds, resource control, and federal interference has evolved into a full-blown political movement. And at the heart of it lies a growing frustration, not just with federal policies, but with the very structure of Canadian federalism. Saskatchewan, long seen as a loyal partner in the Canadian project, is now rethinking its future. Internal polling shows rising support for autonomy, even full separation, especially if it means joining forces with Alberta. Joint trade talks. Resource-sharing agreements. A common provincial guard. Some even mention a shared currency for the West. It sounds like fiction, but insiders are calling it Prairie Sovereignty 2.0. And the trigger? A rumored 2026 referendum, one that would ask Saskatchewan voters a shocking question. Should Saskatchewan pursue a political and economic union with Alberta, outside the framework of the Canadian federal system? Unofficial drafts of that question have been circulating in Regina for months. Political strategists are already preparing war rooms. The federal government, according to leaked memos, is deeply concerned. So what's really happening? Some point to growing discontent over Ottawa's carbon policies many Prairie provinces say punish their economies. Others blame what they call urban favoritism, with national decisions increasingly shaped by Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. And then there's the cultural factor, a sense that Western values, Western industries, and Western communities are no longer heard in the national conversation. Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe denied any plans for separation, but notably hasn't ruled out a special partnership with Alberta. Meanwhile, Danielle Smith continues to push boundaries. Alberta has already introduced its Provincial Sovereignty Act, pulled from the Canada Pension Plan, and is advancing plans for an Alberta Revenue Agency. Could Saskatchewan be next? The opposition. Silent on the surface. But behind closed doors, NDP and Conservative leaders are reportedly crafting statements for any eventuality. Now, let's be clear, there's no official confirmation that Saskatchewan is formally leaving Canada or joining Alberta. The Western Nation Plan, once a fringe idea, is no longer just talk in basement meetings or online forums. It's now a serious topic in provincial capitals, policy think tanks, and even corporate boardrooms. The energy sector is watching closely. So is agriculture. So is the U.S. That's right, American analysts have flagged the possibility of a more autonomous Western bloc right along their northern border. Some even suggest Washington would welcome a more market-friendly regional entity emerging from Canada's west. While all eyes are on Saskatchewan and Alberta, another Prairie province is quietly stepping into the shadows, one that could tip the balance in the growing Western movement. Manitoba. Often seen as the moderate voice of the Prairies, Manitoba has remained relatively silent in recent national debates, until now. According to newly leaked communications from Winnipeg's provincial legislature, Manitoba officials have been holding private strategy sessions with Alberta's Ministry of Interprovincial Affairs. The subject: cross-provincial infrastructure, joint natural gas export corridors, and, most explosively, legal frameworks for Western regional self-governance. The term used in one memo: Tier 2 Confederation. That's right. Manitoba is now considering a framework where Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba could collectively negotiate federal relations as a bloc, rather than individually, a direct challenge to Canada's current structure of provincial-federal dialogue. Sources within the Manitoba Premier's office, speaking under strict anonymity, confirmed that the province is monitoring Saskatchewan's 2026 referendum very closely. One internal document goes even further, warning: if Saskatchewan aligns with Alberta in a formal autonomy framework, Manitoba cannot afford to be left isolated between central Canada and a Western political union. The implications: massive. A three-province Western Pact would control over 75% of Canada's farmland. nearly 80% of crude oil and natural gas production, and a significant portion of the nation's export routes to the US and Asia. That's not just influence. That's leverage. Many point to what Western leaders describe as bureaucratic overreach from Ottawa, from energy caps to carbon pricing to immigration quotas that don't reflect prairie realities. Others blame economic disparity. While Ontario and Quebec benefit from massive federal subsidies and infrastructure investments, Western provinces often foot the bill and feel ignored when they ask for a fair share in return. But beneath the political and economic grievances lies something deeper: identity. For many in the West, the idea of being Canadian has become increasingly tied to federal imposition rather than national unity. Flags still fly, but faith in the federal system is eroding fast. In rural Manitoba, especially, small-town mayors are starting to ask questions that would have been unthinkable 5 years ago. What if we governed ourselves? What if we stood with Alberta and Saskatchewan to protect our way of life? What if Central Canada no longer made decisions for us? And now, those whispers are turning into action. A grassroots group called Prairie Pact has emerged, led by business leaders, former MLAs, and academics. Their goal: push for a formal trilateral summit between Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba before the end of 2025. On the table, everything from shared defense strategies to education alignment, cross-border ID systems, and even a proposal for a Western House of Representatives, an informal legislative body that could coordinate regional policy across provincial lines. Ottawa, for now, is silent. But insiders say federal ministers are preparing contingency plans, including emergency spending packages, political appointments, and even constitutional appeals, should the Western coalition grow too bold. Still, the sentiment on the ground is shifting. Farmers, oilfield workers, Indigenous leaders, young professionals, all asking the same thing. If we're always told we're just provinces, why do we carry the weight of a nation? And maybe more importantly, what if we stopped? As 2026 approaches, it's becoming clear that the real story isn't just about Saskatchewan joining Alberta. It's about whether the entire West is about to walk a different path, together. Stay tuned. Because what comes next could rewrite history.